I went to a museum in New York City with my mother. My mother considered herself a Taína, which was the original people of Puerto Rico, of Borique. So we went to this museum in New York City, and we went specifically to see the petroglyphs, which is the carvings that the Taínos did on stones, and they held in the museum. And we walk into this room, and the guy directs us, the security guard directs us to where these petroglyphs are. So I'm looking at it, and I'm reading the little plaque, and these petroglyphs are behind glass, and there's this little gold plaque, and it says, oh, these, art by the Taíno people. These people became extinct, 400 years ago. And I'm looking at my mother, I'm like, yo, mommy, it says you're extinct, So she slapped me upside the head, grabbed my hand, led me out of the museum and back up to Harlem. So this poem is called Great Dying, Part 1. Cruzando profundos mares, yo vengo de Puerto Rico, y aunque es un país muy chico, ¡ay, Dios que lo aguantaré! No hay país que se compare, no hay país que se compare con su belleza y su mala suerte. Puerto Rico, yo digo verde. Todo en claridad, no miento, yo digo la verdad. Yo soy boricua hasta la muerte. Soy boricua, mamá. Hasta la muerte, sí, señor. Soy boricua, papá. Hasta la muerte, sí, señor. Mi mami, the self-described Taína, held mi mano gently but strongly as we entered into the museum somewhere in the middle of Manhattan in a place called Nueva York. We headed straight up to the dry death room where we was told by the helpful Hispanic security guard that the old Taíno artifacts was kept for the public viewing for all. Aboriginal rocks, seashell pendants, carvings of Maqueteri, Guayaba, Lord of the Land of the Dead, stone beads, petroglyphs of Atabe, the mother goddess of Ukayu, the supreme deity, cacique, skeletons. Releasing my wrist from Imami's overpowering fist, I swiftly moved closer to the glass cases that held them excavated treasures so that I could try to read the little fool's gold-colored plaques that would explain all about the history of them old stones. The way they normally dealt with the native leaders and nobles was to tie them to a kind of griddle consisting of sticks, resting on pitchforks, driven into the ground, and then grill them over a slow fire, with the result that they howled in agony and despair as they died a lingering death. These mortal enemies of humankind trained hunting dogs to track them down, wild dogs who would savage a native to death as soon as look at him, tearing him to shreds and devouring his flesh as though he were a pig. They spared no one, erecting especially wide gibbets on which they could string their victims up with their feet just off the ground and then burn them alive, 13 at a time, in honor of our Savior and the 12 apostles, or tie dry straw to their bodies and set fire to it. They slaughtered anyone and everyone in their path, on occasion running through a mother and her baby with a single thrust of their swords. They forced their way into native settlements, slaughtering everyone they found there, including small children, old men, pregnant women, and even women who had just given birth. They hacked them to pieces, slicing open their bellies with their swords as though there were so many sheep herded into a pen. They even laid wagers on whether they could manage to slice a man in two at a stroke, or cut an individual's head from his body, or disembowel him with a single blow of their axes. They grabbed suckling infants by the feet, and ripping them from their mother's breast, dashed them headlong against the rocks. He brought these wretched men to justice, and their crimes being duly attested to, he caused them to be burned alive in public. The remaining prisoners were seized with despair, for they had not escaped with their comrades, and it was discovered the next morning that they had hanged themselves from the bridge poles. The Indians, forced with the need either to become a lowly marginalized part of the European colonial system, or, as they continued to do so in increasing numbers, to perish altogether. I looked up at Mimami, the living, breathing Taína, with confused and confounded, wide, wondering eyes, whispering tentatively, "Mami, he says that the Taíno is extinct." Mimami stared me dead straight in the face for a long moment, sucking her lips in the way that some West Indian women sometimes do. Took a long, deep breath, grabbed my hand or wrist again, tighter this time, and led me out of the mausoleum and back out onto the streets and off towards the Subway 6 train that would transport us back uptown and back to our own El Barrio where we still lived. Listen.